to carry that bummy mentality into adulthood, fathering children and causing a lot of problems along the way. It's only when you reach a certain age of maturity and you've already wrecked your life that you're going to be aware that this was not the way to go. So it was kind of sad, it was kind of frightening. And again, like I said at the beginning, one hand washes the other. If women set higher standards for men and set their priorities straight, they wouldn't allow stupid things like sneakers and fashion and hairstyles and jewelry and gold teeth, and they wouldn't allow those things to impact their judgment, because they would look at that, you know, as Dave Chappelle did the skit about the whore's uniform. You know, she would see him as he's in his F-boy uniform next. You know, this is why I did the video. We create the men we complain about because we glorify things that are completely irrelevant and do not actually strengthen men to be able to compete, you know. But and then we have all these old men standing on street corners hanging out with young boys still looking like a teenager, and this is not really something we see in other cultures unless it's kind of like the trailer park set, because we have those here, and in every culture you have people who never kind of grow up, but the overall sentiment of the community is very different. Unfortunately, what is a minority in most other cultures seems to be like an overarching sentiment across black people in the West, and it's spreading to other parts of the black diaspora, because as more and more black people are influenced by America, they're taking on those Western values. You know, bragging about how many females you get is a feminine trait. Bragging about having a bad bitch is a feminine trait. Because if she looks good and she's useless, and so what? Or if you're a dude that has to live off a woman, you're feminine because you need to be provided for instead of being a provider. You know, if you're adapting your look to attract females, you're in your feminine, because you're basically being submissive instead of being dominant. And the list goes on. Now, I understand that the black community is a matriarchy, so obviously black men are going to be feminine, more prone to femininity by nature, because they're raised in this gynocratic environment where the households are run by women. You know, we're the only black community in the world that talks about their women being gods, you know, and mother worship and recognizing the mother, and, you know, it's obviously all of those things play a role. And this is why I'm so happy for the manosphere, because black men do need to separate from this system that causes them to be broken from childhood. Now, as more men come into this knowledge, they need to stop glorifying things like smash and dash. This is why, one of the reasons why I'm personally against it, because if you're going to go out there sleeping around with lots of different women, it's only a matter of time before you end up getting at least one of them pregnant. And for me, I hate hearing guys complaining about women who are broken mentally and have stretched out vaginas, and they're so ran through, because you are the same ones who want to run through all these women. You're the same guys who want to pump and dump women. So it has to be one or the other. This is not about being a dick police. This is about saying everything has to be in moderation and in its place. Now, I don't support prostitution, but I would say to a brother, if you really don't want to be committed to one woman and you just like having different women in your damn bed, well, you might as well just use prostitutes, because the average woman out here is, I wouldn't say is operating like a prostitute, but you're not getting anything different. And that sounds really harsh, but the woman, at least the woman who knows she's a prostitute and acknowledges that she's sleeping around, at least she knows what it is, she's upfront about it, and she's getting paid for her service. The chick who's like, I just want to have fun, she doesn't understand that there's a consequence to this fun. She thinks that she's coming out unscathed by dealing with all these different dudes. And then, like, although she's giving away her body to different men, her value is not being diminished. The woman who is a sex worker is probably more honest with herself about where she's at, and she's evaluated her situation, as opposed to the chick who thinks my value is consistently high, even though she's just sleeping, you know, her reputation is in the gutter. And guys capitalize on the fact that women want to be married, or they think they're so clever and they're going to try to use their body as a bargaining chip to manipulate men into doing what they want them to do. So as much as I'm not going to police a man and say you can't pump and dump, you can't, you know, smash and dash women, at the same time, if you are saying you want a community, and if you're saying you want functioning women, then you're going to have to channel your sexual energy into either abstinence or, I would say, marriage, because we all know children who grow up in two-parent households are going to turn out better. It's like, this is one of the reasons why I started to make videos, because I became frustrated with this kind of like a stew or a Frankenstein theology. The guy who is about pump and dump, doesn't want to get married and doesn't want kids, is not on the same page as the traditional, you know, the tradcon. He's not. Now both can be red-pilled, but one is more about self-preservation and one is more about community. You cannot be on an individualistic tip and at the same time be about the community. Maybe you can be blackmail first if you're an individual, because pump and dump benefits the black man because he's getting the release, and once he's finished he can go back to being productive for himself. But that you can't have that mentality and at the same time talk about community. But I see a lot of guys floating around from one chat to another, one video to another, and all they do is gather information and try to marry it all together, forcing it to try and fit when it doesn't fit. Is marriage perfect? No. Do all marriages work out? No. Are all people about marriage? No. But is marriage the best option for society? Yes. Because when it's done correctly, it increases stability. And stable homes produce more stable individuals. When you have a culture of pump and dump, which is whore culture, you cannot have whores if you don't have dudes who are sleeping with them. So this idea that whore culture is just a female problem, I don't really agree with it, because it's a supply and demand situation. These women are meeting the needs of men who say we like whores. If it wasn't the case, they wouldn't multiply the way that they do. Everywhere I look, I see nails that look like talons. I see eyelashes that could flap and blow you away. Because women have believed the hype that men like this. And why? Because they get validated for looking like strippers and prostitutes. These fashions come from that area. The sex trade. And there's a time and a place. I did a video, be a whore for your husband. Go and get your eyelashes and your big claws and your, you know, your platformed stilettos. You know, get the pole in the corner of the bedroom and a disco ball or lights or smoke or whatever you like. All right, maybe I like the smoke. Okay, let's just Just move on, just move on. But whatever you like, there's a time and a place for that. It's called your bedroom with your man. But when you go down the street on the day to day, if you're looking like you're selling sex and looking for sexual attention, you're not supposed to be surprised that guys are pss, pss, hey, pss, pss. That's rubbish. I dress like this for me. What do you get from your breast being out? Short skirt, camel toe on show. What do you get from that? You get three things. You get attention without having to give anything in return. You get to outcompete other women because you feel like you look better than them. And maybe you'll get like some type of validation, like you look good, this and that, which is kind of like attention. Maybe you'll get a man, maybe you'll get some sex or something. But it's not like I just dress like this for me. You dress like that because you're trying to get something out of other people. Jealousy, you're trying to compete, you're trying to show them you look the best. You're trying to show that you can get attention. You're trying to get attention without giving anything in return. So let's just be real. So when men allow themselves every time they see a fine piece of ass to just be like, yeah, God, the thirst is rising. Obviously, these women have no reason to do better because they know all they need to do is show a little bit of cleavage, throw on the yoga pants, and the men are drooling left and right, left and right. Now, obviously, some guys, they play the game. They're just like, I just give her the impression I really like her because I want to get just smash. But there are a lot of guys who are like, that's their highest achievement. And the thing that's annoying about that is not only do they pass that negative mindset and philosophy on to the next generation, but in the process, they're going to produce kids. And those kids are going to be born into a broken situation that is just going to be a next generation of broken individuals. So I blame men for the state of the black community because they worry way too much. They try to, it's just like the females who want to show off on each other. This whole, well, I get bitches, I get bad bitches, my bitch looks better than your bitch. Like, I'm going to do a video on should men worry about looks. Some people say the woman should look more attractive than the man is handsome. I agree to an extent. But if it's a quality, solid woman, that's who should get priority, in my opinion. Because, I mean, most people are average anyway, so it's not really like something that needs to be said. But obviously, because we have media that elevates the most attractive of our groups, there's this what's the word I'm looking for? There's this false belief that within a certain group, everybody looks a certain way, and if you can't get that, then it's nothing, when the reality is most people are average. So it's like you're better off with a 6 or a 7 who actually knows how to behave right, is an all-rounder, got a decent personality, skills in the home, knows how to make themselves look nice, which is what most people probably have, to be fair. Versus that 8, 9 or 10 who's absolutely useless but looks pretty on your arm. You know? And again, you would have more 8, 9s and 10s who were useful instead of useless if they were raised to be useful. So it goes back to the black man being cautious about who he gets pregnant, because the women are not going to tell you, the truth about whether they're on birth control or not. They can try to sperm jack and things like this, So, but for me, it's not even about the babies. Even before the babies, the mere fact that you're giving women who are substandard attention is a way of validating their existence. Because they don't even feel like shame about the way they operate. They're morbidly obese and they don't think anything of it. Why? Because they still get penises thrown at them. They don't look good. They don't smell right. They don't live clean. They don't do the right things, but they're still getting dick. Why would they change? Obviously, the men who support these women don't want the situation to change because they benefit from it. But again, this is why men need to stop, like, having one foot on either side of the fence kind of thing. Yeah, well, I'm about marriage. I support families. I don't like all these women being ran through. I'd like to find a wife and a good woman. And then out the other side of the mouth, it's like, yeah, brothers, just pump and dump and have your fun and play. It's like, which one is it? That's why I'm like, there are professional people to play with. They're called prostitutes. Use them. Not because I support prostitution, but because you can't just keep sleeping with the same pool of women and then be shocked that there's no virgins, no one is stable, majority have kids or diseases. It's like, well, what did you expect? Or that even the women that seem to be remotely decent and good, you know, quote unquote good, they're just as bad as the women who are out there openly in the streets. So this is not really me 100% blaming black men, because women have agency. They know what they're doing. They have the freedom to choose, and they choose badly. But it takes two to tango. And these women, they get validated in their bad behavior by men who have low standards. We all have to have higher standards if we say we want a community. So on that note, let me know what you think in the comment section. Thanks so much for tuning in. Like, share and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one with standards. Peace.